So today we're going to start with integration management. So it's like project integration management is our first knowledge area, which is a kind of umbrella activity. Now here we're going to discuss how to set up, something called project charter. Project charter is the initial document. You can, in many companies, it also, referred as a project familiarization document, where you can share these project charters with all the team members, where you normally share the knowledge of what's the core project objective, how we're going to help the client in terms of their ROI, in terms of building these solution projects, services for them, and the economy of skills as well, like how we're going to improve it, what we can add value to. And normally this project charter gives an instrument, or gives a good idea to anybody and everybody who is joining or who is working on this project in a progressive manner throughout the project, product, solution, services life cycle. So develop project charter is really one of the most crucial thing. Well, all these processes, there are 49 processes, and 7 are in the first knowledge area, which are really important in terms of how you plan your project, how you control, monitor your project, how you initiate your project, and how you execute your project. So everything we plan in terms of these, you can say theoretical scopes first, but then we are steadily going to learn the instruments of it, the tools of it. So when it comes to develop project charter, in most of the cases, it's a Microsoft Word document or a Word document. So it's basically a text content with some images and everything. Again, develop project charter is normally created after the SRS publication, when you have a concrete size and shape in terms of what needs to be done, in terms of what all requirement have been initially accepted by client, sanctioned by client, in terms of high level scope, in terms of those decision making, various graphs and charts, or various fishbone diagrams, SWOT analysis, and all those things. So here we have a conclusive idea what's the core objective of the project, product, solution, support services. And that's why we build the develop project charter, where we have good amount of deliberation going into that, good amount of discussions going into that, which gives you a clear idea, not evolved, but at least clear idea what needs to be done. When you talk about enhancing attendance management solution, that's the example we normally discuss. Only here the role changes. Now we will discuss this thing as if you are starting the project as a project manager, and this is your first project. Believe me, it does help. We will do hands-on workshop, then also we'll do hands-on workshop, various other plans also. And once you understand the project management nitty-gritties, you can improve your day-to-day life as well. Because when it comes to implementing these management skill, it does help to build all these complex challenges in terms of how I can do my execution in the best possible or best progressive way, without least possible what you can say noises, least possible wastage of resources, and so on and so forth. That's why please look at it as a life skill. So how can I improve? Even I want to have a project of finding out a new job, or improving my day-to-day job as of whatever I'm working currently, or how to get the best possible job as an opportunity. Try to build a project of your own with what all the tools we are learning in a progressive manner. So your developed project charter can be, I want to look for better paying job, as simple as that. And here we start with that. So your main core objective can be look for the best paying job with the skills I have. And this can be your core project. Try to do these things, and we'll discuss on that as well. And please be outspoken. Whatever you come, whatever thoughts come to your mind in terms of confusion, in terms of challenges of understanding, please be outspoken about it. Okay, now develop project charter, as we just discussed, it's a kind of total a single document called familiarization document as well. So anybody and everybody who joins your team, you can give them this document. It can be normally 5-page, 10-page, 15-page document, not a very big document, but it gives an idea to an increment of what you are doing, how you are progressed, what type of tools you are selected, what type of ROI or a core project objective we are looking for. Does that make sense? I couldn't hear. Could you please, Seiji, you want to say something, sir?
No, sir.
Okay, no problem. Sorry. Have anybody worked on something like these documents? Have anybody heard of project charter? Okay, no problem. Even in agile, agile scrum thought process, they say least possible document. But develop project charter or having project charter does help every project manager. That's why we normally build these document. Okay, these might be called as a project familiarization document. Okay, and that's we can use. Then develop project management plan. Again, this is also kind of a reference document, or what you normally can be called as a appendix or attachments and all. So here we have develop project management plan is an umbrella plan where we have all the 9 other plans included in that, like a paragraph, like a summarized project management plan. So you should have a scope management plan para in develop project management plan, or a chapter. You can have a schedule management plan in develop project management plan, which can be a 1 or 2 page type of summary over here, and so on. So you have all 9 project management plan included in develop project management plan. You normally start developing project management plan one by one, and that's how this is an umbrella document. So even anybody don't have too much time to get the familiarizations, project charter as well as integration project management plan is the most important document to start with, to get idea of what we are doing here, what type of policy processes we are adopted, what type of non-conformance or what they call it, what type of alternative processes you have adopted than the standardized processes and all those things. And even the auditory frequencies, the periodic reviews and all those things are normally mentioned in this develop project management plan. So how soon how often we have scope management plan review, how soon we have schedule management plan review, how do we review our cost, how do we audit our cost, and so on and so forth. We'll have all these inclusions in a single line or a couple of lines in develop project management plan. It's an umbrella plan. This is normally a Word document where you normally have all the references where the other plans have kept. So if you want to have a look at all the knowledge management plan, which are normally a Word document but can be an Excel sheet or a web page, still have all the references in the single document called develop project management plan. And this is a planning process group. First is the initiating process group. So whenever you start, you normally start with project charter, then we start with planning, then we come to executing process group. So all these work we do in the executing process group, and then we have monitoring and controlling process group. This is like you develop something, then you monitor and control, you check the quality and so on and so forth, and then closing is our last process group. But when it comes to executing process group, you are executing thing, you are doing things. So direct and manage project work. Here you are actually creating, producing, enhancing things. So all these things, whatever you adopted as in project management methodology, the templatization references, all these things are given here, in even in terms of integrated development, what type of development environment you are looking for, what type of in terms of car manufacturing. Here you can keep out what type of robots or robotic processes I'm using, what type of software I'm using in car manufacturing, what type of engine I'm importing if I'm not creating in-house, and so on and so forth. So here you normally direct and manage your project work in a progressive manner. Then we have manage project knowledge. All this knowledge, whatever you created, even if your project is not successful or not doing the best part of profitability, thought processes, whatever we might have started with, this can be basically the knowledge archival, or all the learnings and experiences we normally convert into document and share it for the organizational improvement purpose. And that's how we should look at manage project knowledge. Is basically a knowledge archival system we normally adopted for all as in best practices of project management thought processes. So here we are keep improving our project management knowledges progressively. And then as a 4.5, we have monitor and control project. We devise tools, we devise some processes and policies adopted to monitoring and control our work. We do progressively, execute, create, enhance our work, right? To control those things, to basically understand if I'm doing right, if I'm doing it with the least possible, cost, best possible efficiency. We normally keep doing that thing through monitoring and control project work. And then we have perform integrated change control. So whatever you create, you integrate it with the bigger part. So if you are, let's say you are developing some part of a piston for an engine, that piston has to fit to the engine, right? So all these integrated change to be done in this perform integrated change control processes. And then close project or a phase. So whenever your close phase is basically kind of waterfall thought process, but even in agile sprint we do close smaller phases like sprint phase, close the sprint and so on and so forth. So here what we do, we normally progressively track these phases during the project executions. Here in terms of agile adaptability, that's what we learn in our next session in terms of how we build these agile policies and processes, how do we plan sprint and all those things. So we'll have these agile scrum session led by mentor by Prerna ma'am from Tuesday onwards. So she will discuss these things with you, how we plan these phase in terms of how do we apply these agile scrum principles in terms of the best possible scheduling, best possible understanding of how we're going to plan to execute each and every work, right? And that's how we're going to have this total project integration management thought process to be learned. Now this was just an integration. Now the way we learn is basically, as we discussed, this is a standard format of PMI PMP. They've started this format in late I think 2000 or early 2001, early 2001 2002, where we have a standard templatization like input, do some process work with tools and techniques, and output. So there are three important categorization for each of these processes, how we're going to analyze or learn in depth. So let's try to understand from develop project charter, the inputs, tools and techniques, and outputs. The inputs to this process is, and this is the best way of explaining any processes, and these have been certified by major institute and major IT companies in terms of even the Six Sigmas and CMMI of the world. These are called quality templatization. That's also we're going to learn what is Six Sigma, what is pardon me, CMMI, ITISM, and the difference between them whenever we do project quality management. Okay, now let's try to understand how these best practices to be learned or to be grasped in terms of input, tools and techniques, and output difference distinctions. Okay, the inputs, the business documents which taken as an inputs to project charter is the business case, or you can call it executive business summary. These are, we are talking about what are the core objective, the crux of the project, like you're enhancing an attendance management system. So you should know about the attendance management system. You should know enhancement means there is an attendance management system do existed before. So I need to analyze that. Then I might basically go and create a gap study and so on and so forth. Again, depending upon the policy and processes adopted by your organization, you normally try to build a business case or try to get the business case from business analyst, which can be included as a first chapter in SRS. It's called executive business summary or problem statement or project core objective, as you might explain it in your SRS. Then you have benefits management plan, and these are called as the ROI document of the world, the return on investment. Why you're doing this project, why you're investing so many millions of dollars to get this thing done, how it's going to create returns for you. And that's a benefit management plan, and this benefits everybody, whoever is involved, they going to get benefited, right? Be it a development organizations, be it a client, be it an executive in clients. Let's talk about VPHR, the HR manager. HR manager will be able to, approve leaves on his mobile, process salary from his mobile, try to understand how many leaves are remaining for him or herself as well, and so on and so forth. So everybody reap the benefits of these projects, right? And this benefits management plan basically try to build overall summary of, as we normally call as a user story. So user try to understand how am I going to benefit from this solution support services project, whatever we are executing here. Then we have various agreement. In a good number of organizations, they normally opt out the financials overall in terms of the dollar amounts and all, but they give a kind of overall idea of how many dollars we have, the client is paying for us, so that we know the length and breadth of our project's execution, the project, detailed planning. And that's why we normally have even agreements, contractual terminology, whatever included, including the overall penalty clauses and other clauses like that. Penalty clauses specifically we need to understand in terms of if we have any fixed delivery dates. Let's say you are developing something and you need to basically give it to client or deliver it to client with at such and such date, or otherwise there's a penalty. Might be monetary, might be some sort of a credit delay or something like that. Again, these are basically agreements or contractual terminology agreed upon between two different organizations, and that's how these agreements are necessary to understand, to build your plan, to create the granularity in plan, so that we are not getting penalized even if we are deliver something. And that's why these penalty clauses are really important in terms of understanding how we can do the project effectively, efficiently, what type of pitfalls or challenges we might come up after that. And then, of course, as we discussed, the enterprise environmental factors and organizational process asset. Can anybody describe in their word what are enterprise environmental factors? Just give it a try.
So enterprise environmental factors are like something which is going globally, and like COVID-19 happens, or like global warming, something
Wow.
going on which is affecting the whole world or region wise, which is not in our control, but it's going to affect our business somehow.
Wow, great explanation, sir. All the factor which are external to your organization are environmental, enterprise environmental factors, and then organizational process assets. Anybody want to try to explain organizational process assets?
I'm not sure exactly, but let me just
Give
try.
it a try,
It's
sir.
like the things
Uh-huh.
like which are under our organization or our boundary and affects our project.
Mhm. Greatly explained. Just to add to that, we have something called standardization, templatization, and quality, policies which we have adopted to make this project the best efficient project, least of cost, best of the speeds, and so on and so forth. So this is how we adopt these templatization, standardization, and quality processes via organizational processes. So these are all assets who are going to help us out. Here we can include the PMOs of the world, the auditors of the world, the reviewers of the world, and so on and so forth. So that's why they call it organizational process assets. Okay. Does anybody have any confusion in these two? Thanks a lot, sir. You have explained it really splendidly. And this is how we keep learning. This is how we keep improving. Okay. And we don't have to explain everything in the technical terminology to start with, but once you should understand these terminology and start using them in your day-to-day life. That's the major improvement, I'll say, a major output we can conceive with these discussions. So please do try. This is really a great progressive manner where we learn or we improve our linguistics also, and so the embedded learnings. So these are the inputs basically. So here we are talking about four distinct inputs, two documents, then the rest of agreements or a set of contractual terminology, EEFs and OPAs. Okay, so these are the four inputs comes to the develop project charter. Now let's understand what we do. Yes, sir. Please go ahead.
Sir, I have a question about the agreements. Like the agreements we will gonna add in this project charter. So
Uh-huh.
from where we get these like agreements from, like the sales team, like who bring this project, like a
Yes,
sales
sir.
manager who close the deal,
Yes, sir.
or we have
Sales
to
team
like do it by
normally,
our own.
or normally, as we discussed, right? Business analyst. So business analyst or sales team. Or there
Okay,
are organizations or teams within our organizations called PMOs of the world, or other teams which they can label it as per their company thought processes, or a project initiation group also, or they call it ACPG, software process focus groups, where these guys are specially a kind of group where all these COEs or SMEs come together, and these group basically give these documents whenever you have something called kickoff meeting. So you are starting the project, you are kicking off the project, okay, and that's why these specified team can be also in place depending upon the organizational policy acceptance, procedure acceptance, or even basically how they have evolved with. They might call it COE group, SME group, ACPG group, or sales team, or business analyst group. So you might get all these documents from them, and then as a project manager, you start creating project charter. You might get few hours, couple of days to create this. It's not a very big document. It's mostly cut and paste or collection of content and converting it to your thought process in terms of you as a leader, how you're going to guide others as well. Normally we do have a project charter template for every organizations, but again the differences are so large. We don't normally create project charter as an hands-on workshop, because again this is like how the policy your organizations have adopted, and we normally go with that. So think it as an a word document with 4 5 chapters, like a business case, executive summary, project core objective, list of requirement, user stories, the high level diagrams, the benefit management plan, the return on investment, or how the project are going to create output in terms of software, hardware, any third party components used, and all those things. Again, depending upon the organization's adoptions, we might have additional parts or a reduced part into that. Some might just have a couple of pages document, some might have 10 15 pages document. Again, depending upon wherever you join, normally you have these project charter as a document whenever you release project charter. Again, oh sorry, I forgot. Normally in many organizations, specifically Infosys, Wipro, TCS, computer associates, and so on and so forth, they normally have a unique ID given to your project. This is normally alphanumeric ID which is mentioned in these project charter. So whenever you want to refer this unique alphanumeric ID, you might refer to this project charter, because all the billings and invoicing normally happens through this unique project ID, which is normally included in a ERP software like SAP, JD Edwards, or all these things, where you normally lend out resources for this project with that ID from these resource sharing resource type of software across your organization. So that's why project ID is one of the most crucial part in project charter. Does that make sense, or does that answer your question?
yes, sir. Thank you.
Thank you. Now let's try to understand tools and techniques. Okay. Now, again, take a minute to understand expert judgment. Now, this expert judgment will come on almost all the tools and techniques. What is expert judgment? Here, in normal projects, project solution support services, we normally take a help from some senior person, and this guy can be a domain expert, can be a policy expert, can be an auditor, and so on and so forth. Now all these resources which you normally lend for a few hours are normally mentioned as an expert, and every organizations normally have a group like ACPG, special focus process groups, center of excellence, or subject matter experts. And this group, or normally you call vertical, where we list all such person, like say Ravindra is really good in process implementations, or best practices implementation for a given project. So we might hire him for a couple of hours on this project so that we can zero down what type of policy, processes, templatization will be the best fit for my project. There could be Sayedji, who is really well experienced in terms of logistics, in terms of any particular domain, might be banking domain, or might be infrastructure specialist. In infrastructure specialist, we need to understand what type of software, tools and techniques we're going to use, then what type of servers, desktop, laptops, or even cloud configuration we are going to need for this project. Normally, whenever you procure infrastructure, even via cloud, even via internet, you have to understand something called volume sizing. What is volume sizing? How much RAM do you need? What type of processor are you looking for? What type of hard disk space or even cloud space in terms of storage you're looking for, and so on and so forth. Because all these entities, they demand certain sort of a revenue asset creation, right? And for that, you have to allocate that revenue. So now all these things are driven by budgets, driven by certain limitations, capacities, and all those things. And that's why we might have something called capex expert. Capex is basically a terminology used for whatever asset you're procuring for your project. Your project can be 2 months project, your project can be 2-year project. Again, depending upon the length and breadth of project, all these assets are being allocated, and you might hire an infrastructure expert from the organizations, and these guys are built to your project on hourly basis. Normally, all these costs are aggregated. All these costs are basically decided in terms of their grades, in terms of all these resources, seniority, and all those things. Many of the organizations use something like a thumb rule, like so many dollars, like $45 per hour will be charged to the project if you leverage any of these COEs or SMEs. And that's how we normally leverage these experts to make sure whatever we are doing is being reviewed, is being certified, sanctioned. And so the organizations believe whatever you're doing in terms of standardization is already applied to your project. Now you can keep going, keep continuing. And that's why during project charter, the first thing we do is basically whatever we create or whatever template we need to use, you start using all these COEs and SME in terms of expert judgment. And this is standard terminology used in PMI, PMP, and many other management institute also. So wherever there's an expert judgment type of scenario, please remember this is the process where you leverage the available COEs, center of excellence, or subject matter experts for your work. Now you are the leader of for the project, right? So all such entities we are leveraging from external world, external department, associated departments. We need to notify them proactively, and we need to understand how much cost is in at play here, so that we are not going over budget or under budget or all such scenario. Okay, then data gathering in the sense, whenever you have all these experts going to help you out, you gather these data in terms of auditory fact. It might be an Excel sheet or a Word document or some email in confirmation with their appointments. There normally all these expert comes to you, and you plan a meeting, you plan a brainstorming session, you plan a focus group meeting, or you plan an interview. In terms of, you might interviewing a specified user group to understand their difficulty in terms of, let's say, overdraft in banking domain. Overdraft is a bit critical entity, because overdrafts are issued to very few customers, and it's a liability to the bank, or liability to the solution, liability to the banking system we are developing, right? So for that matters, this overdraft facility, I'm just taking an example or a challenging example you might understand. Let's say you have X number of dollars in your bank, and you need to purchase a car, which is normally you might need to add 10-15 percentage over whatever you have in saving. So what you do, You go to the bank manager and saying, hey, bank manager, can I get an overdraft of this 10% amount to whatever I have in my bank right now, so that I can purchase this, or procure this car, procure this house, or whatever it may be, so that I don't have to really apply for loan or mortgage. And it'll be really a long-term engagement. Then the overdraft facility is very short-term engagement, like a few months, if not few weeks. And that's how it works. And they charge you really nominal interest for this overdraft as far as banking goes. But yes, the overdraft can be 10 to 15%, or at the max, I believe 30%, again, depending upon the banking company policies and all. So something like that. So if I need to understand an overdraft facility to be incorporated in my software solution, I might leverage a SME from a banking domain. Does that make sense to you? Are you understanding what I'm trying to discuss here?
Yes, sir.
Okay, great. Now you can imagine, if you have any other, what you can say, example, you can share with the group, and we'll keep learning together. Okay. The main intention here is learning together. We should work as a team, or we should start working as a team in terms of understanding even project managers' roles and responsibility, because there are quite a few conflicts at play. There are quite a few disagreements at play, like we have in our house. As simple as that. A husband and a wife might have a difference of opinion in terms of getting cushion, getting curtains, getting the house painted, or the color of a new car to be procured. Again, these are disagreements are there. As we are human, we have our own likings, right? And we do evolve in those likings as well. Sometimes we might compromise, but to start with, we'll mention our conflicts, we mention our differences, and there is no, what you can say, bad part of it. It's a part of life, it's a part of learning, it's a part of growing up. And that's how conflicts are part of life. We have understood that. Now let's see how we can manage this conflict. As a leader, as working with a different number of team members, me as a project manager is responsible for conflict management also. Many of the organizations, they do have these new PMs take a training on conflict management in terms of addressing the conflict between two resources, two team members, in a really, what you can say, effective way. Believe me, not all the persons are effective conflict managers, but still you need to understand the processes, so that in case you believe you are not a good conflict manager, you might leverage somebody else who is a conflict manager within your team. And that's how, even in my case also, Ravindra is not really great conflict manager. I have another, team lead or a project lead most of the time, who guides these things, who can basically address this conflict much, much better than me. That's why, as a project manager, as a leader of the team, we need to understand, or we need to build a process within my team, or nominate a person if I'm not a great conflict manager, or so on and so forth. Same thing with facilitation. Facilitation, we normally talk about all the facilities in terms of meeting room booking, in terms of a new laptop, procurement, in terms of the laptop upgradation, like you have 4 gig of memory, you have 60, you need 16 gigs, and so on and so forth. You have 14-inch laptop, now you need 15-inch or 17-inch laptop, and so on and so forth. All these things to be facilitated by the leader. And that's why facilitations is a kind of really important part and parcel of the project management day-to-day duty. And then meeting management. This is really crucial, and they have mentioned it specifically because, believe me, the maximum loss of effective work timing happens in meeting. That's what we have surveyed, that's what we have understood, and you might agree with me. Does anybody want to disagree? Like, meeting is a waste of time in a major time, in a major instances. What do you think? Means we have quite a few experienced people here, so they can share their thought processes. Why meeting is a waste of time? Let me share my experience. When I landed in US on 30th September 1999, we had a meeting. I started working with Priceline.com as a consultant, and there we had our first meeting. I still remember that meeting because the meeting was planned for around an hour. This was discussion, like it was a project kickoff meeting for a new job portal to be created by Priceline.com. We were using something like Cold Fusion, Java, and all those things at that time. Okay, being a project lead for that project, and we have really distinguished a very senior project manager. Okay, we have discussed a really very interesting topic related to our project for the first 15-20 minutes, but then the discussion derailed to what's the best way to have that what do you call that, paper roll in your toilet. And that discussions, we had a couple of French guys, we have a couple of guys from Italy, Russia, China, and then I was from India, and some another persons from India. Apart from the what you can say, American English and Indian English differences, I was really stunned because we've discussed that, how to put that paper roll, paper coming out from the front or the back, which will be the easier way, and how the 5-star uses this facility, why this is better, that is better, and all these discussions gone for almost 35-36 minutes. I was really surprised, like a really you came from India, and the first meeting you attend, like on the toilet roll to be applied, which is the best way. But yes, this basically taught me, like, the wastage of time maximum happens during the meeting, and we start discussing anything which is not very relevant, or we keep extending that discussions. Might be something like a snowstorm coming, might be something like COVID which already happened, and so on and so forth. Even during online meeting we do these things, right? But yes, we need to understand the maximum wastage has to be controlled, has to be addressed in terms of, hey guys, could we please focus on our project or something like that, so that we can address the time wastage in an effective manner. Now all these responsibility is on a project manager's shoulder, because by default, except Scrum meets, all the other meetings, the chairperson or the meeting manager is the project manager, because he has a responsibility of getting things done successfully, effectively, efficiently. And that's why meeting management is one of the most crucial tasks a project manager has to do. Do you agree with me? Anybody have any confusion, contradiction with these thought processes? Hello, could you hear me? Could you hear me, sir, madam?
Yes, sir.
Yes. Any disagreement when I say project management? Have to have that what you can say, meeting management type of skills. What do you say? Anybody have similar experiences like me? What have I explained to you? Nobody? That's strange, because normally I have a couple of participants who share their thought process. They've discussed like how to do carpooling, was the best car park to, how I can grab the best car park near to my office, near to the door, and so on and so forth during colder days. We do have these discussions. Anybody want to share their thought processes? See, unless and until we discuss this thing, we won't understand. Otherwise, I can be a kind of sole speaker and everybody is just listener. Please don't do that. Let's share our experiences. These are all our life skills we are talking about. Could you agree with me? Hello? Or have you decided not to speak? Please don't do that. Is it really complicated? Hello? Hello, we couldn't hear you, Bhargavi madam. We have really...
No, sir, it's not complicated, but initially it looks really, kind of hard to understand. But I think as the days goes, we all get into this terminologies.
Okay, no problem. You have attended meeting, right, ma'am? Means it can be PTA meeting, it can be any society meetings and all those things. Have you
Yes.
attended? And you
Yes,
might
sir.
agree
Yes.
with me, like we do unnecessarily discussions in these meetings.
Mm-hmm.
Even lots of times we do have these rumors discussed, or discussed couple of film stars relations, their divorces and all those things. Yes, Bhushan sir, you are the senior most, sir, please go ahead.
The most difficult part is
Uh-huh.
handling egos.
Yes,
Even
yes.
though you have a brilliant idea, somebody above you, he feels threatened, and he comes up with all kinds of excuses
Right.
not to implement this idea.
Right, sir.
So that's the biggest hurdle I have noticed in most of the situation. But eventually we will overcome.
Right.
Sometimes you have to be aggressive, take risk, and it might cost sometimes your job too. But if you have a good intention and then you want to really achieve something, in a bigger perspective, you
Right.
have to be bold in expressing your ideas and make it heard by more than this person. Normally you go to your boss, you introduce the idea, how about this, he tries to stall it. So you have to overcome all those things. So that's the biggest thing.
Yes, sure, sir. For that, we got to learn negotiation skill as well.
Right.
And we'll have some,
Eventually.
10-15 minutes discussion on that in terms of how to
Right.
negotiate, what type of things we are looking for in terms of being preparing for negotiations. Yes, you need to prepare. Even as we've just discussing, we need to prepare for something like conflict management, and that's why they were categorically mentioned here. So we might, discuss in terms of how do you manage this conflict. Let me come to the scheduling part. Means when we'll discuss conflict management as well as negotiation management in terms of whenever we are discussing schedule management knowledge area. And please do remind me if I forget that thing. We normally have these discussions there because
Right.
at that time your negotiating schedule is one of the most crucial part, because somebody says I can do this thing in 6 days, and you normally personally feel no, 6 days is too long time from your experience, from your gut, from your understanding of the task, and you need to negotiate with this person. So how do you do it? Even there are conflicts arises. Somebody might
Right.
say, "Hey, why do you think 6? I've done it in 3 days," and then the conflicts start. So how do you address those things? What type of pre-processes we need to do these things before putting such discussions to table? And that's what we're going to learn. So say
Right.
management itself is one of the most important tasks we as a leader has to work on, and we will going to learn how do you manage these meetings. So to share a few thoughts, basically we normally plan the agenda, and we normally put a line saying, and you might have seen in various meeting agenda, any and all discussions with the approval of a chair. Means you can't
Right.
start discussion without approval of a chairperson. It might be
Right.
project manager in this case. In daily scrum meet, we have scrum master. So unless and until the chair approves, you can't start these discussions. And this guy controls this length and breadth of discussion. Otherwise, we might keep going on discussing something like toilet rolls. And yes, it was a great learning for me. Believe me. Means a guy coming from India with around 80 years experience as a project lead and start discussing toilet rolls in a meeting for where we are trying to build a job board. In those times the was really crucial projects, because you to push it out before certain days and months and so on and so forth. So all these discussions really baffle me in terms of, hey, are these guys gone crazy or something? Means you do feel things whenever you do attend these meetings, and you're not a chairperson, you're not a really what I can say, you don't have too much to discuss. In India,
Right.
we don't have these toilet paper regularly at all toilets. Now we have to, but in those days, in during 1999s, only 6 star, 5 stars, and all those guys used to have these things. So in home we normally use. Well, we don't want to go to that discussion right now, but yes, these things do happen really. And that's why, as a project manager, we need to understand these skills, we need to build these skills, and we're going to learn how to build these skills as well. The outputs are,
Sure,
of course,
sure.
the project charters, where we have a document called Microsoft Word or an Excel, um, to be given as an output out of these developed project charter processes. Normally, developed charter process happens at the early stage, after kickoff meeting or during various kickoff meeting. Kickoff meeting normally is not just the one meeting. Here we are talking about successive 4-5 meetings, because normally a meeting also to be planned for maximum 1 hour, because if you go above that, you might disturbing the other schedules, you might disturbing the other works. Now here the kickoff meetings are planned if we have assigned resources completely, or the resources are still working on other projects, and they are going to get joined to your team as well. So these are mostly shared resources, and that's why this kickoff meeting normally take 4-5 instances, because we can't continuously have 4-5 hour meeting or a 6-hour meeting. And that's how
Right.
we are progressively addressed, and we build this project charter progressively. So after, let's say, sixth kickoff meeting, I'll have a project charter completely agreed upon by all the members, sanctioned, signed by either sales manager or the PMOs of the world, depending upon your organization policies and processes. Then you can upload it to the cloud and then make it available for everybody. And then,
Right, right.
yes, the second item is assumption law. Now, this is really, great thought process, or rather best practices adopted after 2010 in terms of specifically PMI 6, where the assumption law has to be included in the project charter. Now, let's take a minute to discuss this assumption law. Now, we have these thought processes of standardizing each and everything throughout our world to make our life easy. But again, this is also kind of assumption, right? A person coming from India, or as normally Americans call third world countries, where we are not developed, or we are in a process of developing, there are policies and processes which we haven't learned. Okay, in my good old days, when I started, when I moved to Stamford, Connecticut, from Mumbai, India, we never had these metro rails, we never had these auto door closing kind of trains. In Mumbai we have locals, where there are no, well, there are doors, but we don't close the doors, because guys really like to hang out, have those hair flow on
Hanging.
our body, because of it's a humid, we are a kind of we have a big sea, what do you call, sea face, and that's why it's a humid environment in Mumbai. So struggling that, the best way to do that is stand on the door and lean your body outside to get that a big flow of air passing through your clothes and all, to keep the
You
humidity
want to
at.
face the breeze, yeah.
Right, right. You want to face the breeze. That's very rightly said. But in Stamford, Connecticut, it's not that coastal area. It's bit inside. Means you don't have that much humid. And all these doors, when you move from, when you travel from, let's say, New York to Stamford, it's around 40 minutes, 45 minutes journey at that time. Now it's really reduced to, I think, 22 or 23 minutes. These metros are really improved now. So that was a kind of learning for us.
They have ACs inside the
Yeah, all these things are conditioned.
the
Yeah, means
right
air is
cars,
conditioned
train
either hot
cars.
or hot during the colder days and cold during the summer or spring days. And yes, that's very rightly said. And this was kind of new to me also. And that's how we learn. So all these standardization or all these assumptions, everybody knows everything, is a kind of go for a toss on such teams. And that's what I found basically. I learned it the hard way. Even to lead a
Right.
team, it was a difficult thing. So we do assume like this person is knows English. Specifically, I have two members from China, and these guys used to pronounce R like R, and you might have experienced, right? Means I don't want to what you can say respect anybody here, but that's how their culture is. The way they speak, car means car, and Indians, we do pronounce, or we stress R's most of the time. That's how our Indian English, you can say. So there's a
See, basically in Indian English, we in a lot of places they're not teaching the phonics, like Like for example, X means X, like
Yes.
C means Ka. So
Ah,
those things they have not taught, and it's peculiar. I keep joking with my friends, American friends. If they
right.
try to ridicule my accent, I'll get back at them. I won't spare them. Why PUT is put and BUT is but? Why can't it be put and but? They become quiet.
Yeah, even I had these things, but then in I think Connecticut, I started going to this one of the greatest institute. I couldn't remember the name, where we have specific accent
KL?
classes. And
KL?
there I had really good friends, like one of the Russian, Vladimir was my best friend. We are in still touch. One of the Korean was my friend, and we used to make a fun out of this. And then one of the British.
Right, right. See,
And
one
he's
thing,
that British left
Indians
and
have
right.
habit of talking very fast. That's
Forget
what
about
American,
the
we
slangs
don't
are the
take
main pain.
time.
The slangs are the
No,
main pain. You couldn't
that
understand.
is also true, but
Yeah,
we don't take time to say the full word. That's the only
I know.
drawback.
Yeah, and
But
yeah,
otherwise, America is a land of all kinds of accents. So
right.
now they know,
A
you know.
complete cosmopolitan thing. We have
But
established.
you have to be confident. Whatever way you speak loudly and slowly, clearly. Doesn't matter. They
There's
will
a one
understand.
way to address it. That's right. Other thing is, go to such they have some special classes now. It's in a community college, so you can go to the all nearest possible community college, and it's a best networking start as well. I'm a kind of person who likes friend. Means we discussed all these matters within friends, and even if we have fights, we have disagreement. But yes, you normally mention I agree to disagree kind of scenario, even with this British guy, and there was a French guy. Well, this was one of my best friend in North America. I started with his name was Carl Lopes. His mother was from Mumbai, and his father was French, and they were both
Mhm.
working in a French embassy in New York. So that was a really
Mhm.
beautiful learning for me. Means this guy
Right.
helped me to understand the North American way of driving cars and all. So he helped me a lot. I still remember he's now with 3 PhDs under his belt. He's a lead architect in a computer associates. He's
Wow.
really senior people now. Yeah, he's like 2 years senior to me, so he should be 53 now. And
Mhm.
well, he's great in terms of he likes that aggressive learning, aggressive career enhancement, and all those things. So he also started organizations, then he closed that down, and so on and so forth. But yes, this guy was a French. So the discussion between British and French are the most what you can say entertainment, because
Right, right. They don't like each other.
our Indian languages comes from Sanskrit. The British English comes from French. So whatever French say, they believe they are better in linguistics, and Britishers believe that the rest of the world is useless in terms of using English. You might have felt that, right? And take it as a
Yeah,
light
yeah.
term. Believe me. But in normal projects, we would assume like everybody knows English, and then Americans, specifically New Yorkers, they believe English is basically whatever American English is. Football is
Right.
what American called is football. And this is the crowd movements, or this is what the things which I have learned in first few months. Again,
It's
to assume everything, understand what is football, what is handball, and what is World Cup. In North America, the World Cup is whatever they say World Cup, even if only North American states are playing. And that's really fun way to understand, because normally whenever if you go to another other country, the World Cup is basically where multiple nations are playing, right? But in North
Mhm.
America, you don't need that. You have
For them, America is world,
yeah, America is world, and then the rest is rest of world, or America and Great Britain, or America and
and
Russia.
they,
The
and
rest,
and they are the first world, and others are second world, third world.
yeah,
I
even
said, when you say third world, what is your ranking? I said,
believe me, yeah, and I really find what you
are
can
you
say
first world or?
second, third world, yeah. And believe me, we had a really great fight, an understanding of third world, why India is labeled as third world. Then what I've understood is basically it's economical nature rather than anything else, and India is
It's
still
all
in
BS.
terms of those um, the monetary numbers and all, but forget about that. But then, we used to discuss, because I'm a vivid speaker of Hindu religions. So I know those Aryabhats, I know all those great scientists who have really initiated those what you can say, processes for surgery, processes for mathematical calculations and all those things. So we used to,
all you have to do is that you have to quote Einstein, Mark Twain, what they have said about India. There's so many things. Only thing, if they try to put you down, don't allow that. That's all.
Right.
We respect every religion, every language, every culture in the world.
Right.
So that shouldn't become our weakness and then get beaten up.
Right. That's true. And you need to be really careful. Now, this is what the assumption plays all about. See, our culture, our upbringings, we do come with all these baggages of assumptions.
Right.
Believe me, and specifically persons who haven't traveled anywhere else. I was lucky to travel with, before going to North America, I was traveled to Russia, Belgrade, and all those things. So I know a bit about these differences. Okay, and still, struggling, or rather, I'll say, so I could be able to find these way quicker there, having the list of the conflicts, and that's what really, great learning for me as well. So that's why the assumption log is basically the initial document we create in terms of we assume this.
Right.
And that's how we normally, this starts with the basic project understanding. So Ravindra is from India, and we normally mention there, and it's basically giving respect that rather than criticizing anybody. So we also put down some percentage in terms of how his or her accent is, because then we might suggest them to build their personality among accent. Specifically, all these new Chinese or Korean guys, their pronunciation is really difficult to understand. Believe me, it took almost 6 months to understand a complete sentence of one of my Chinese team member. And no disrespect to him, he also tried very hard to work with me, because I was a project lead and he was working on these tuxedo services at that time. So, it's a crucial part of the whole architecture and all. So here we keep learning, but whatever you assume, you need to put it, or you need to document something. And based on that, we create something like risk. For every assumption, there's a risks. So when I say Ravindra is coming from India, so the risk normally gets initiated with these R. His English might be a bit different. The R is pronounced quite with a stress. He might not understand the ground level cultures. So we might need to, specifically, let me tell you, the parking. In India, we have those, lines to park. But most of the times, all Indians, and I believe it's because of the culture or upbringing, they park inclined to those lines. In North America specifically, there's a North America, or if you go to Singapore, this is a big challenge. In North America, we don't have challenge in terms of number of parking spots available, so it does work. But when you go to New York, or when you go to any big city like Chicago, and if you plan your car, if you park your car like a bit of incline, all the adjacent parking slot normally remain vacant. And we need to understand that's because of slap on our face, like we are doing it wrong. That's why those slots are vacant, because of you. Believe me, I've seen, a couple of Indians parking their bike, rather than vertically, horizontally. It disturbs the whole parking slot. We need to understand that. And it's really, bad thing, frankly speaking. And these are some gaps we need to address in terms of whenever you move to some country which is highly disciplined. Well, even Britishers park like inclined and all, good amount of time. I've seen that, because specifically the Londoners, they don't use cars. So it's a kind of, rookie mistakes, I might say. In India also, we don't have cars like 3 cars per person scenario. But still, whoever have learned to park car, they normally use the other slots as, gifted from their forefathers, something like that. And so on and so forth. These are all cultural challenges we need to address in terms of all cultural project, or there are assumptions like, okay, we'll have, this computer work for all these software as well. And if you load a couple of more software, the computer becomes too slow. So we might need to put another processor, RAM. So all such assumptions we need to make sure we'll address them and we'll convert them to the risk, whatever we need to review at a periodic interval. And this is how you normally address the develop project charter process. Could you understand what we do in develop project charter? Please have a look at the recording, and I'll really request you, because then I might need to what you can say, improve my discussions with you specifically, because I might have missed, I might have explained it to in a difficult parameter. So please guide me on that. And this is kind of my learning as well, or our synchronization. These are really crucial topics. If you really work on develop project charter, this can be easily correlated with something like to-do list. To-do list, like, okay, what I need to do for this project, what I need to do for today, what are priority number 1, 2, 3, what I can't miss, and so on and so forth. So if you are really habituated to build this to-do list, it can be done at the end of the day or the start of the day. Again, it's your adoption. You can't copy it from somebody else. And believe me, it's one of the most crucial habit of one of the 7 most crucial habits of very influential persons. The persons who are really success in their life in terms of monetary gain, in terms of fame, and all those things. Again, successful persons definition might be different according to you, and I can clearly respect that. But overall, there's a book called 7 Habits of Most Successful People. If you can grab that, it's available freely on the net. You can search for free PDF download 7 Habits of Successful People, and you will get that book. It's hardly 200-300 page book. They normally discuss all these best habits of these successful people, and we should adopt some of them. Some of them are really easy to adopt. So please try to read these things. These are really life improvement skills, and will basically get lot of good vibes or good improvements in our day-to-day life to achieve really great what you can say, pinnacle of our aims. And that's how this is a suggestion, not a kind of need, but yeah, to-do list is one of the most simplest and good adopted technique, so that you do a to-do list whenever you get up in the morning, might be while having tea, coffee, whatever you have, and try to address your day in terms of how I can plan my day better. So this is what the develop project charter, or planning something which you are doing, which is a complicated in its nature, which has many nook and corners. So start addressing them rather than waiting for the stone to fall. Could you understand what I'm saying, sir, madam?
Yes, sir.
So please do try to take help from such thought processes. Okay, let me move to other process. This is a develop project management plan. Now here we take an input of project charter where we think how to do, what to do, and all those things, an initial way. Now here the output is project management plan, and as we discussed, this is a integration project management plan where we have all the other 9 knowledge area included as in chapter, as in paragraph, depending upon the organizations you are working for. And this way you normally build an output of an integrated project management plan in terms of how we are going to do, how you're going to manage your scope, how you're going to manage your schedule, what type of audits are planned, what type of reviews have you been planning, how do you manage the risk, which is the main document of what you call risk register. Is it an Excel sheet, is it a Word document, which type of project management methodology you're agreed to, adopted to, and so on and so forth. Okay, let's try to understand from input, tools and techniques, and output perspective. The inputs are project charter. We discussed project charter in depth. Now you know the nook and corners of project charter. The output from other processes. Now, project charter was a part of initiating process group, right? And this was a part of planning process group. So here you have started planning. Okay, so you are building your plans. So output from other processes, whenever you are in the project development is also already started, right? So if you are in the process of managing project, you might update this project management plan for any exception or for any alternative process adoption as well. So the output from other processes are important. So let's say you started risk register as a Word document. Then might be 2 weeks down the line, after your first sprint or second sprint, you found no, it should be an Excel document, and you normally converted the risk register, or you normally adopted a process or change in a process of a risk register as a Word document to Excel sheet. And these are all included in this umbrella plan called project management plan or project integration management plan. So from outputs from other processes and their aftermaths are normally taken as an input here. And then of course we have EEFs and OPS, enterprise environmental factors and organizational process assets are taken as an input in terms of, have you find anything extra to add to this in terms of new risk, in terms of new understanding of challenges in within your environment, within your process improvements. If you found any new templatization, found any new software rather than using a Word document or Excel sheet, which is really cumbersome to get updated if it's being updated by too many participants. So we might have a web page which might mention all the traceability, all the improvements going into these documents and so on and so forth. So normally enterprise environmental factor and organizational process are inputs to all these management plans, because quite a few things gets to be adjusted, tweaked to adapt to the current scenario. So all these scenario adoption processes are normally done via enterprise environmental factors and organizational process asset. Does that make sense? Anybody have any question? Difficulty in understanding? Are we good?
Yeah. I mean, trying to get into the groove.
I know. Yes,
With
yes.
all this
I can clearly
terminology.
understand. It's a new thing, and believe me, we'll stop at this so that you can review, you can build your own understanding, your own thought process. That's what the need is. And these are really first couple of knowledge area, we are really going to go slow. Okay, so no problem.
Sure.
So let's try to understand tools and techniques. Again, here we do leverage our experts in terms of subject matter experts, center of excellence, or systematic process groups and all those things. Now we do gather data. We do gather data from meetings, right? So we build minutes of meetings. Here, rather than building minutes of meeting, what we are doing, we are building the data element itself. We are building the action items itself. We are building the allocation to a particular resources by itself. So here they've labeled it as a data gathering. So data gathering happen via brainstorming. Now again, minutes of meeting are prepared by one of the team member. But here, whatever we are encouraging, everybody take their own knowledge collection or own inferences from the meeting. Take their knowledge, collect their knowledge from the meeting itself. So that's why the data gathering. The data gathering can be done through brainstorming, a checklist in terms of, do you have to use this process or not? Like the pilot do a checklist whenever he starts a flight, and so on. So like that, we have this checklist, and many of the organizations have standardized this checklist, and these are called project management plan checklist, which are normally 4 or 5 documents where we normally tick, okay, the risk audit will be, risk review will be every week, risk audit will be every 4th week. There'll be sprint audit every day, or there's a daily scrum meet at 8:30 in the morning. Checked, clicked. Which are the focus group which are attached to us, or which are the focus group we already booked? Something like a risk review meeting, where I might leverage a risk manager which is not allocated to my team, which is normally will be in that meeting once a week, just to understand whatever risk we have mentioned, whatever the risk have been reviewed, we are doing it in the best possible way. We are doing according to the best practices we have learned. And then interviews. Any personal challenges, specifically the conflicts or ego clashes, we might to sit with the person and try to address that as a project manager to that person one-on-one. There are many such instances for the new leader to understand, even by herself or himself, in terms of what type of challenges do I have in terms of personality. Like I'm a too talkative person. And most of the time, I don't normally keep, what you can say, secrets from many other. But in project management, we have something called information dissemination. And we'll discuss that this information dissemination in depth in project communication management knowledge area. But just to give you a heads up, there are information on need to know basis to be shared. And this is a really a kind of, very crucial point. If you share wrong information with the wrong person, you are creating so many obstacles additionally. And that's why for me, whenever I join enterprise rent a car, they have special training. Means we have, I think, 3 or 4 or 5 sessions for information dissemination specifically. As a project manager, this is a really crucial skill. You shouldn't discuss everything with everybody. I'm an open person, I'm a transparent person, I'm a talkative person. That's why there's a problem. And this is my kind of, you can say, advantages as well as disadvantages as my personality. And that's how we need to understand how to work around with it. So how to build conflict management. If you speak too much, if you share information with so many people, it creates conflicts, it creates ego clashes, and so on and so forth. So as a project manager, as a leader, we need to address them. Facilitation, we just discussed, we need to facilitate our team members, our project team. And project manager is the senior most person, is the person normally nominated to or is responsible for each and every facilitation, be it a laptop problem, be it a phone problem, or basically a new person joining to the team, arrange his cubicle, his or her cubicle, and so on and so forth. Meeting management. Also, we need to manage our meetings in terms of what all meetings to be called for, build those agenda, sanction those agenda, and so on and so forth. And then plan these meetings. Normally, in good old days, only project manager were supposed to plan these meetings. They got that authority to book a conference room, book a meeting room, and so on and so forth. But now I believe these things have been improved, and anybody and everybody can book the meeting room, plus only the project managers approves those things. So all these meeting planning has to be reviewed, has to be guided to all these team members proactively, so that nobody do a time wastages during this meeting. And the output is project management plan. We include all those things. So what all experts to be leveraged, for which and when. Then we have data gathering. What type of data have we gathered in terms of brainstorming? So we had a meeting, we had a good meeting in terms of understanding why should go with tuxedo service, and why shouldn't we have the text transfer between the Linux server and our Windows development terminal. I'm just giving you a raw example. Okay, here I have shared an example of a software development thought processes to be decided during a meeting. There could be a meeting to understand how much coolant that car should carry, in terms of if you are a car manufacturing company. Why shouldn't we carry 100 ml less? Because it will save cost, right? But whenever you are selling car, you need to make sure the car is on the road without any maintenance for the first 6 months. And that's the thought process. So you should have normally the coolant which is required for first 6 months or first year, depending upon your car manufacturing thought processes, car manufacturing adopted practices and policies. So these type of things are included in the project management plan. And this is what we normally call as a integration project management plan. Okay, does anybody have any question on these?
No, sir.
Yeah, good, right? Thank you. Thanks a lot, sir. Now, this will take in our next session. Just take a good overview of this thing. This is where the actual work we start, or we plan actual work. So this is where our project plan starts building. And you can see there are many inputs. Tools and techniques are very little, but the outputs are good number of outputs. Now here we start understanding what exactly needs to be done on ground. And this is after the completion of the kickoff meetings, or kickoff meetings as we can say. Okay, the inputs are the project management plan, the project integration management plan, whatever we build in our last process. Now here, these are the continuous process. As you can say, this is a part of executing process group. We have initiated our project, Project in the sense project, solution, support, services, whatever you're going to build. Then we have planned that project in terms of our integration umbrella plan. Now we have started to actually do the work, and this is what we call executing process flow. You can understand the word executing, right? Like, you know, if you're making tea or coffee, now you know you have water, you have pot, you have tea powder, coffee powder, masala, and all those things, and you also have a gas or induction stove, whatever you call it, so that you can make a tea. Now this is the time where you know you have all the raw materials, you have the resources with you. In normal management term, the resources are man, material, machine. Man means human resources, material means raw material, machines is what are the machines we require. So for car manufacturing, you might require a couple of robots. For software, you might need laptop, desktop servers, cloud access, and blah, blah thing. Okay, so please remember, resources are man, material, machine, 3 M's of the work. Now here, let's consider the inputs for direct and managed project work. Project management plan, any and all components. The project documents. Now here we are starting doing these documents. If you're doing it for the first time, if you're doing in continuation, you might take this document as an input and give this document as an output also. So the change log, whatever we are adapted to change from Word document to the Excel sheet. Yes, please mention that. And this is a kind of, normally in most of the organization, change log is a, you know, Excel or what you call CVS file, comma separated file, where you open that file in an Excel where the, you know, columns are separated by tabs, and you keep on adding whatever changes you have accepted, approved with the timestamp. Now timestamp, I believe everybody know the concept, but let me explain it again. Timestamp is basically a specific way the computer understands the time. It start with year, like 2023. Today is March. What's the date today? Oh, come on.
25th.
25th, yeah. So 25th March. So 2023 03 25. Today is Saturday, to SAT, or they might have a number for Saturday 003, 006 or whatnot, and so on and so forth. So this way we build, then we have a time, specifically time in the sense hours, minutes, seconds. Seconds 3 digit. So hours 2 digit. Okay, sorry. Year 4 digit, month 3 digit, day 2 digit, hour 2 digit, minutes 2 digit, second 3 digit, week of the week 3 digit, nanosecond 3 digit, and microsecond in some scenario, which are 3 digits. So all these length makes a number which is normally taken as a timestamp. Now this timestamp I'm sharing with you because whenever you're going to do IT projects, all these logs which are normally associated with the field called timestamp, or they call it stamped with time. And that's why it is really a need to understand there is some cryptic long number you might find in these records. It can be at the start or at the end. Normally whenever it at start, it's normally taken as an ID. Computer can think in micro and nanoseconds. That's why every entry is deferred with this identification mark called timestamp. All these change log, if you open any of these change log, you'll find it's have this separate cryptic number, which is around how many digit? Let's say 4 for year. And then we have 3 for months, 2 for days, then 2 for hours, 2 for minutes, 3 for seconds. Then we have 3 for nanosecond and microseconds. So we have 4 plus 3, 7, 7 plus 2, 9, 9 plus 4, 13, 13 plus 9, 22. So this is a 22 digit number. Normally it can be 23, 25, it can be 20 also, it can be 21 also, depending upon the thought process of your or adopted policy and procedure of your organization. Now this timestamp is included in whatever you do change, and this is what we call change log, or this timestamp is normally used as a foreign key for all these tables, because whatever entry has been made, and these are made in database, Excel sheet, or even in CVS file, these files are referred throughout the project to make sure whatever changes have been approved at that times to be either scrapped or can be referred afterwards, can be referred at the another reviews or audits. And this is how we progressively include these things in our day-to-day work. Yes, Sage, you have some questions now?
Yes, sir. Just a small question. Like when you are telling us like the number of digits for time and year and all. So you said like we have 4 digits for year and 3 digits for month.
Right.
So why is that so? Like why 3 digits for month?
Right. You know Y2K, right? Have you recall Y2K?
Y2K now.
Okay.
2001.
Exactly. Let me explain, because I have, I was at the helm of it, believe me. Okay. Y2K was a problem because computer programmers earlier than 2000, they have programmed year with 2 digit. And if you can really recall, in your, I believe in your school days, we used to label the year with 2 digits only. So like,
Yes.
99, 91. But then in 2000, we, really hit that thing hard, because, computer don't care. You give 2 digit or 4 digit, but if you give 2 digit, there's a problem. The 01 is also 01 can be of 19th century or 2000 century. Now we are in 2000 century, right? And similarly, to go forward, the total IT workforce or IT computer people have decided, no, this 2 year, 2 digit years are really big challenge. Let's make it at least, 4 digit. That's a kind of need. Otherwise, computer going haywire, and that's what we used to call Y2K crisis. So there are a revamp of good solutions to move to year from 2 to 4. That's why it's called Y2K. And then months also, similar problem. There are many agencies who have, started making months in characters. Characters in the sense MAR, JAN, APR, and so on and so forth. So normally in the Y2K, we have decided like months should be, if you're given even alphanumeric, be it, it can be an alphanumeric, this whole timestamp can be alphanumeric, and for the months, we normally give you these 3 digital letters. And that's
okay.
why
I don't like
understood
yeah.
it. Believe me, there are almost 1600 PhDs on this timestamp. So you can search on Google, believe me, and timestamp is a really crucial factor. Means when I explain these numbers, right, these are the most common numbers followed by the Unix system called digital alpha, DEC alpha. That's the operating system. These timestamps are coded by at a processor level by operating system. So there are windows.
Actually, yeah, I thought like when you said like 3 digits, so I thought like there should be like the whole timestamp should be in numbers in numeric format.
No,
so
sorry.
when it comes to numeric format, so month should be in like 2 digits. So that's why I thought like why 3 digits?
No, pardon me. That's
like,
my
if
explanation.
it's like alpha, so that's okay. Yeah, makes sense.
Yeah. Sure. And on top of that, believe me, now we use 32-bit timestamp where we normally include the login name credentials in the 5-digit alphanumeric parameter or 6-digit alphanumeric parameters. Okay, well, I don't want to go into technicality. 32 digit means it's not 32 length of the character. It's basically 128 length of a character, string, as you normally call it, variable in most of the programming language. So it's an alphanumeric 128 length type of string we are looking for. Okay. Why this is important? Because you keep shifting operating systems, right? You might work on Windows laptop, you might work on Mac laptop, your server might be Linux, and so on and so forth. So for them, you need to assume to a particular timestamp for for your executions, and that's what the timestamp makes it really crucial for all these communication. Because all the operating system have their own way of using this timestamp. I know this is a bit technical, but we as a project manager should know it. You might not find it on the first day of your project, like, okay, the timestamp format is this, but normally there's a person who is labeled as a configuration manager, which is a kind of infrastructure expert given to you in terms of your project. So there's a configuration manager who is a kind of infrastructure guy given to each project by the organizations to share all these details with you. He or she normally unifies a timestamp, or he know which timestamp is better for you, or he got the approval or sanctions for a particular timestamp for your project already. And this is what we call standardization of our project document, standardization of our project communication. It starts with the first document called change log. Whatever you want to change, even if you want to change the timestamp, which is not advised during the project lifespan, but still, if it's necessary, you can do it with all those, seniors approval, the PMO's approval, which is a kind of a month-long process or something like that. So that's why the standardization is really important. That's what I need to discuss with you. So this is a change log we are talking about. And then we have lessons learned register. We start building this knowledge base. Even change log is a part of our knowledge. This is what we have agreed upon. This is what we have discussed as a unified process to go forward. Then there's something called milestone list. This comes from the SRS itself. It's a cut copy paste where we have discussed, or we have agreed with the client, or we have agreed within our team, so that we'll have so many milestones. Our SRS to be, which is sanctioned and approved, to be reviewed by daily basis for the first week at such and such time. And we normally collect this knowledge and put it in our knowledge register. We are developing enhancing attendance management system of a state farm, which will start with automation of the processes. There might be an analyst will go to the state farm so and so office and observe the actual attendance process and the pitfalls of it. And this is a kind of extra elaboration of requirements we do. And then we normally zero down a milestone list. So Ravindra will go to the State Farm St. Louis office and spend 4 hours on Tuesday, 4 hours on Wednesday, and so on and so forth. And this is whatever we have marked as a milestone. So this is a direct observance by an analyst at the actual location. And that's how we call it as a milestone. Milestone is anything you are marked with a date or a timestamp to be completed by that. And this is how we are all communicated with the milestones, so that we understand what's need to be done or what's the final target date. And this has to be communicated within the team, within the stakeholders. Then we start building project schedule for the first time and keep improving it. Project schedule here, we are talking about the a kind of who is doing what till what time. The task list, activity list, work item list attached with a date and a name of a resource. And this is what we normally call as a project plan. Then RTM, requirement traceability matrix. We have discussed this thing during our business analyst sessions. This is a complete trace of a requirement. So if a requirement is elaborated or broken down into activity, task, or work item list, we will have those things mentioned in this table called requirement traceability matrix. And here we also start with the risk register. If you are in between the project, you might take that risk register as an input, which is normally an Excel sheet where we have a list of requirement, we have a description of a requirement, we have probability of the requirement, we have a weightage of requirement, cost of requirement, and resource associated with that requirement. These are the least possible columns in a risk register. And whenever we do review risk, we create a risk report. Whenever we audit the risk, we create a risk report. So the first time, whenever you start managing your work, managing and controlling your work, you build this risk review, or you do audit risk, and that's why there's a risk report created. Now here we mention the approved change request. Now there could be a single document called change log, or there could be two documents, one for change log, one for approved change request, where we mention what type of at what time exactly and who is approved that, and so on and so forth. And then, of course, we have enterprise environmental factor and organizational process assets to help us out understand how we are going to move forward progressively in terms of building these documents in an effective manner. Any confusion, contradiction so far?
No, sir.
Okay, let's stop here because I don't want to pile up with too much knowledge. Well, the tools are really easy and outputs are just kind of, updated inputs, but let's discuss this in our next session. And my humble request, please have a look at this recording where we have just started building our knowledge base, where we have just started building our knowledge in terms of the best practices as how to manage project, how to be a project manager. Could you feel the heat? Could you understand the brain wheels churning?
Of course, yeah.
Yeah, definitely. So this is really, believe me, it's really evolved practices, evolved procedure and adaptability, which we are going to learn for the next so many knowledge areas. Okay, so let's stop here. And please, I want you to enjoy weekend as well, but please have a look at this recording whenever you have free time. Okay, and please read the chapter 4 where you'll get all the details, because PMI have discussed in details. It's one of the biggest chapter called Project Integration Management. Okay, so let's meet on Tuesday again, and we might start with Prerna ma'am. She's going to make us understand Agile, Scrum, the templatization, the standardization part of it, and we'll learn. There are good number of games because Prerna ma'am is really a great mentor. Believe me, much better than me the way I feel it. So let's try to understand from her how Agile and these things happen, and then we'll relearn these things in our next session. And we'll move forward that way. Okay, sure. Thank you. Thanks a lot for your time. Have a good night and a great weekend. Bye bye.
Good night. Bye.
Take care.